welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Weasel Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a woman that spells her name with letters. It's Megan Nom Hoffmeyer.
Ooh, yeah.
Nom Nom?
Nom nom?
Hand?
Hand.
Bird.
He's
Shark,
my
get off the
favorite.
radio.
I love King Shark. Or Nanawe.
Oh, I love it. It's just Stallone. It's Stallone in that thing.
Oh, so fun thing I looked up about King Shark and being written into this movie. James Gunn wrote the part with Stallone in mind.
Oh, wow.
As a really, I have this 5 times, really, 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 really dumbed down Rocky, but the studio was hesitant to go that route. And after a long interview process where they looked at hundreds of people, they actually recorded the King Shark part 3 times.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't like any of it, and they were feeling not confident, and they finally caved and let him ask Sylvester Stallone, and he came in and did it.
And crushed it.
Yeah, oh, he did great. He's so fun. It's very Stallone. It's so fun. And the design of King Shark, he's kind of adorable.
When he's underneath that tarp
Oh
in the
my
car.
gosh, he's so cute in the bus.
I love that little guy. And I just want to clarify.
He's so murdery, but he's so cute.
He eats people and rips people in half.
Yeah.
And it's adorable.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want everyone to know I called myself Weasel. I have not murdered 27 children. Just want to give everyone the heads up. And I know how to swim.
Oh, yes.
And
good.
I avoid belly flops at all costs because they're horrible.
I don't know who designed him, but he's just disgusting. I can't look at him anymore. We've watched this movie a bunch of times now, and I can't do the weasel scenes.
Now, does he look more like a werewolf or an Afghan hound?
I don't know. Maybe just like a mutt?
Why does TDK call him an Afghan hound?
I have no idea, because they're all kind of dumb, and they're part of the distraction squad.
And does Blackguard not know how to work a seatbelt? Because
clearly not.
TDK had to show him how to do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of good bits in that first, how many minutes? 10 minutes of the movie?
I think the finest, well, I think Joel Kinnaman is really good in this, and I'm very happy that he got a larger role. But I love how he says weasel. Weasel. It's just a very interesting inflection on that. Megan.
Yes.
I've watched this movie 3.5 times in a week.
Wow. You must love it.
And I want to watch it again now.
Yeah, you were just talking about watching it right now.
I was listening to the soundtrack before we started this.
Ooh.
Very good soundtrack.
Yeah, I can't wait. We did order the Mondo vinyl with the new art and everything. I'm excited for it to get
Starfish, very pretentious.
James Gunn puts together some really cool soundtracks, and I read an interview with him in Hollywood Reporter where he talked about, they said, are there songs that you can't get? And he said, no, I just tell the team that you should be able to get that song, and don't come back to me and tell me you can't get it. So they didn't tell him if they had problems, but I think he puts together some really compelling soundtracks.
They're not busted, even though life is busted.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, people just want to
be loved.
Yeah. By not you, but anybody.
Yeah, by someone.
Weasel.
Not by Weasel.
You had a violent reaction to Weasel.
He's so gross looking.
What's Weasel's power? So I read...
Probably just vicious.
I read that Weasel went insane and dressed up as a weasel and started killing people. The real character, yeah.
Okay.
But this Weasel...
is a real weasel?
I mean, does Weasel have like King Shark-esque power?
I don't know. He doesn't seem to be able to talk.
Yeah. And I guess King Shark makes sense because of Aquaman and his bulletproof skin.
Well, King Shark is also a demigod. His father is a shark god, and that's why he has so much power. He can speak. I mean, he's kind of dumb. I did look a little bit into he's had so many iterations, but one of the cutest is in the current cartoon. He has a giant hoodie.
Aw.
I know. He's just my favorite.
I like this movie. And listen, James Gunn came back into it, and I've made you watch Slither. Not make you. You like Slither. And I showed you Super.
It's very weird and gross.
And so a lot of people got their introduction to James Gunn, like, okay, I'm saying the mainstream, like not cinephiles.
Yeah,
who watch
with the Guardians movies.
So they got their James Gunn fix with Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, PG-13. I mean, they still sneak in Salvador Dali bodily function jokes. I mean, there's a lot of interesting bits.
They are. They're not as prevalent, I think, as in the Guardians movies, but because there's so much happening. I mean, it's just constant stuff in this movie.
And the jokes are nonstop, but when a lot of people are like, oh, the gore is so over the top. This is so over the top. I'm thinking to myself, this dude worked for Troma and did Tromeo and Juliet.
Have you guys heard of Slither?
I wrote an article for Rotten Tomatoes about Super and Slither. Like, I got to write about their 15th and 10th anniversary at the same time because they were released relatively close at like August release dates.
And Super's quite mean too, right?
Man, and you know what's interesting about Super? It's kind of an anti-superhero movie. It's about this guy who gets this vision from God and starts bludgeoning skulls with a pipe wrench.
Yikes.
And it's just a gnarly, mean movie. And so watching this and then watching Guardians and Slither, I feel like it's a wonderful way to prepare himself for this R-rated $200 million movie. Because
it's big.
There's touches of Guardians, but there's also touches of Slither and
for sure
Super in this. And I love it. And I think he really was able to synthesize everything really well. And it's a shame that this movie isn't doing quite well. I mean, last time we checked, it's about 70 million worldwide. But I do think a lot of people stayed home and watched on HBO Max. They said it was their number 2 movie watch behind Batman v Superman.
Well, we definitely contributed to that 3.5 times.
Yeah, and just with the times with the Delta and different world, like the different release dates around the country, it's just interesting watching people talk about how this movie tanks. Like, this is not, I don't, yes, it underperformed. I mean, Godzilla vs. Kong made boatloads of money. Quiet Place Part 2 made boatloads of money.
True.
But this is an R-rated.
It's very R-rated. I was surprised on our last viewing how many times the F word is said. Just casually. I mean, I'm totally fine with using the F word all the time, but I noticed it that time. How often it just pops up in general conversation. What
I do like, though, is you hear about a lot of actors who, when they improv, they just drop the F-bomb because that's what they think. Like, we need some improv. Yo, I'm gonna... And then the director's like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. But in this one, you don't really notice the profanity unless you...
No.
Like, this is random, but remember when, like, you...
It feels quite natural.
I was going to bring it, like, the duster that we had rented on one trip, and then we started noticing dusters everywhere. Yeah. So I guess if you start thinking about the profanity, you'll see it everywhere in it.
Yeah.
But I just enjoy this experience. And also, too, I was thinking about this today, and I just found a really neat article about it, where they talked about all the fight scenes in the movie, and I was kind of thinking about the different action scenes that are in this film. The first action scene is just the glorious, bloody setup that just, Captain Boomerang is killed. Weasel, quote-unquote, drowns.
His is quite sad, though, Boomerang.
Oh, man, and,
Doesn't Harley scream, Boomer, booming?
Yeah, and he had the best line, too, about, he's like, you think that's a dog? He's like, all names are letters. Like, he had some really good bits, and we get to watch, like, Blackguard, Mongol, Javelin just get murdered. But I like that it sort of separates the gang. It gets Harley on one thing. It gets Rick Flag on another thing. Mm-hmm. And then you cut to another group coming in and it just shows that Amanda Waller is quite devious. And she knows, like I think it's Blackguard's fault that all the people got them there.
If you think about it, I wouldn't think that she put them out there to be killed. Although it seems that her team had some reservations about some of their abilities. Given the betting that was going on. Normal Monday morning meeting.
Oh my gosh. Get back to work, Dale, you dickhead. Oh, I love that line.
But
like the action scenes though, like that shows that they can, it sets up the other group walking onto the beach. And then you have the scene where all the gorillas are murdered.
Oh god.
That shows how just violent the crew are and just shows like the humor. There's competitiveness between the two. And then we get Harley's action scene where she goes down the hall and just murders people. I think it showcases her abilities really well. And then we get the fight, the beautiful fight between Rick Flag and not Captain Boomerang. That'd be interesting. And then why am I not? Oh, Peacemaker. You get the wonderful fight between those two. And I was reading about this and I thought this was pretty cool what they said. This is what James Gunn said. He's like, we worked very, very hard on that fight. The Rain fight and the Harley fight, Gunn says. The stunt coordinator, Guy Norris, who does all the Mad Max Fury Road movies, no big deal. He's doing
nothing, small stuff.
He's doing the latest one too. But he wrote, I would come in He would put something together, I would come in, and he would just change some things and chop some things away. It took a lot of work, and it had no unnecessary elements. All those fights would have started off 5 times as long as they were. But I find that when you're shooting these long fights, you don't want repetitive stuff. The fight itself has to be a story. It was our requirement that all of the action need to be part of the storytelling. But that fight, in particular, was brutal. It's a very sad fight, because those characters were very happy with each other, and probably having the time of their lives just 2 hours earlier. And I kind of love, too, where they asked who would win. Kinnaman's like, his biceps are the size. Like, he has a vein in his bicep that's bigger than me. And Cena said, I haven't been in a fight in 20 years. Like, if I got into a fight, I would try to fake punch someone and expect them to fall down. But I was thinking about these fights where I think they do a good job storytelling. They're like, my biggest annoyance, and you know this with action scenes, are when they're pointless. Or there's a spin kick that's not necessary. Like, there's just not, I don't know. I like the fighting to be part of the story. And I think all these fights tell a story. And I really love the Flag Peacemaker fight because it hurts. I got mad.
Oh yeah, it's terrible that we have to lose him.
Yeah.
And Peacemaker is such a jerk.
Yeah. And listen, I love Cena in it, and everyone talks about how professional he was on set, which I 100% agree with, and I like Peacemaker, but it just kind of stinks when Flag finally gets to become this cool part of the team. But I guess it makes sense. Like, what are you going to do with him moving forward? Who knows if you're going to get another one? And with that death, with Peacemaker doing that, that sets up the great chase with Ratcatcher. That sets up the great showdown with Bloodsport. So, Bloodsport? Bloodshot. He's fighting Jean-Claude Van Damme. But it's Idris Elba. So I guess the long way of me talking through is I love the action in this movie. Because how many superhero movies have we watched where the fight scenes don't, there doesn't seem to point to them sometimes. They're just there. So I dig all the storytelling in the fight scenes.
Well, and going back to the very beginning, I like that this movie just jumps into the action and the fights. And it doesn't waste a lot of time on setup and backstory. It doles that out throughout the movie with its little cutaways and it's, 10 minutes ago or 3 days ago. But we get right into action scenes, which is fun. And it makes it very engaging for the audience.
Absolutely. And
it's a very interesting storytelling style, this movie, but it works.
We get 3 hours earlier, or 3 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
And different little bits like that.
Hey, I've got a question for you. So why do you think Harley's on the B squad?
Well, see, the problem is, though, when we learn that Rick Flag is still alive, she diverts her entire team to get Flag. And she likes Flag. Mm-hmm. So do you think that's...
But it seems like Idris's team had the main directive, though.
Well, I think so did they. But maybe she knows that Rick Flag's already a leader. And Harley's good, so they gave him a B squad, them a B squad, and then the other squad hasn't proven themselves yet because they're quite loose. Like you have a dumb shark, a very tired millennial, Peacemaker, and Bloodshot, who's just grumpy.
Yeah, and he definitely doesn't want to be leading. He's there reluctantly, under duress.
So I guess they just put Flag. But see, I think she just knows Red Flag will get the best out of this crew. And we never got to see them in action because they just get slaughtered.
Oh, I know.
So fast.
Yeah.
I feel bad for... And Boomerang was on there, though. He's not B-Squad. Like, he helped save the world once.
Yeah, I feel bad for Boomerang. That's something else I noticed about this movie upon multiple watchings. I was just really engaged in all the eye candy and the loud stuff and the, just fun pieces here and there and the jokes when I first watched it. And then I really sat back and noticed how it is a suicide, too. Because they've got these people who, they don't spend a lot of time acknowledging their roles in the first movie, but it's definitely, it's there. You can tell that it happened, and we're moving on very quickly. Mm-hmm. And I liked that about it.
They're not going, hey, remember that time that we stopped we had to kill your...
Yeah, and there's no recap, remember, and this 2 years ago when we did blah, blah, blah. And these people were all in the squad, and this is where they are now. No, none of that. They sort of acknowledge it within the story, and then they just keep going from there.
I originally thought, you look at this script, right? Bloodshot, played by Idris Elba. He's so good in this movie. It makes me so happy. No, I love his range in this. There's scenes where he's just running all goofily. This is a guy who's trained, has a Thai kickboxer. He's a legit badass.